he is. We have seen the trade-off where they give Wukong over and you trade it off with the likes of Viego instead, but it just doesn't leave the same blows. But Shayak decides to go with what worked for him yesterday, which is the Corki. And honestly, it's that failsafe we talked about in the pregame. If this champion goes unchecked, he will just outpoke you and outdamage pretty much anyone in the game.
Yeah, no surprise to see the Zeri response as well. Obviously, a very, very strong champion on the patch. You pair it with a composition that it works with, can do very hard to get onto, and I think it's stylistically quite a good counter to the way that Misfits Premier is played quite often, where they run a style of composition that will be easy for Zeri to dodge in and out of.
So this is going to be interesting. So we get the standard Asir into Corki meta matchup. I'll be diving into a little bit later once we hit the laning phase what this realistically speaking means. But the Corki Asir matchup, which has been almost famous for the past 2 to 3 years, is not the same matchup as it used to be in the past due to different build stats coming out from the Corki. Either way, Asir will have some way to really get pressure in the early game, but he will get outranged in the late game. And speaking of that range, that seems to be Misfits Premier's game here. This Twitch into the Seri. It's a very interesting matchup, and I've heard different takes on it as well. It's kind of just whoever opens up on each other first wins. So Twitch, of course, if he can open up on Seri first, will just outrange, will stay out of the auto attack range from Seri, can't really get onto him. But if Seri can open up first and start stacking up, once Twitch starts his ultimate, it's actually hilarious. Because his ult is not targeted on with auto attacks, Seri will actually be faster than the Twitch auto attacks can hit if she kites it right. So it's a little bit turn-based in terms of who really starts it there. Very interesting.
Yeah, completely. It's very interesting to hear that kind of in-depth matchups. You know me, Gulborg. I'm just the fancy word guy. I don't know any of these sort of individual specifics. It's mental to me that like I play solo queue with you and you actually know this kind of stuff. Why can't you show it in our games?
Are you acting like I'm not carrying you every time, or just like
Well,
Smurfing? I feel like once I start inting, you can give me the stuff. But yet that haven't been me, so that's fine, bro. That's fine. Keep it coming. Speaking of solo queue matchup, of course, support main here. So the Renata matchup into Rakan, fairly good for both. It doesn't really matter laning phase rise. Renata can take more charge because she gets more poke. And she has that extra shielding that comes through when she throws out her E. But the thing is, that matchup is more for Rakan to have an influence on the rest on the map as well. And specifically, you want to be able to bridge the Asir. You want to be able to apply pressure from the bot side moving into the mid lane and make sure that Kalki stays behind. But of course, moving forward into the second ban phase, that Trundle you were talking about, it has been taken away. And then a lot of the top laners of Adam is just getting removed here. Just pure respect taking away the Darius and the Gwen.
yeah, but I think one of the problems here is that the jungle pool very, very wide open now. Bees Academy can take a jungle here, potentially opt in for something that will take away from Zanzara's pool. Zanzara, he's played the Viego before, so if that gets taken away, might be another champion he's not able to take for himself. And then you're leading up to,
Wow.
I thought, actually interesting enough, they're not going to do that. They're just going to put Adam straight on the Ornn. Not exactly a
And
champion you associate with his image.
this is so weird as well because you pretty much could get counter pick on top side here for free because you need to pick your jungler here. Junglers usually don't value counter pick too much. Obviously, Shio must have some pick in mind here where he wants to know the entire composition of Misfits Premier. I could easily see Sansara just locking a Sensao here instead just because, you got reliable disengage. You can, disrupt a lot of the damage that's coming through once you're just standing there. And you seem rather impressed. Are you impressed?
Well, I'm not going to give you no stop. I'm not giving you any credit. This is just you're on LEC, man. Like I'm not gonna toot your horn. But
Fair
anyway,
enough.
what's the
I
top
feel
pick?
like
Go quick.
okay. I
Too
was just
late. Too
about to
late,
hit it.
Gilbert.
I
Too
was
late,
just
man.
about to hit it, and I was not gonna say it. I was actually not gonna go with the Sejuani. I was gonna go with the Sion instead. But either way, I was expecting just a tank mirror matchup up there, just due to the fact that you just want reliable backline for Misfit or front line for Misfits here. You want something that's got good disengage in it, and honestly, you get more disengage in the Sejuani ultimate than Sion would be able to offer. So I've not been too impressed with the Sejuani into on pick just yet, but here it definitely counts for it. That's
Not
interesting.
a fan. Not a fan of this. I think especially the way that we built this up here, Shio. It feels like he had a pick in mind that required seeing the entire draft. I think red side's such an important side to get in terms of with that final pick you can see what's in front of you. I think Lee Sin, not exactly a pick that I think can get like massive amounts of done here this game.
It's something for BDS that worked a little bit once they were playing some of the earlier European Masters just last split as well, where it's just about finding that one insect into a composition actually where they weren't actually able to get into. I remember specifically, I don't remember who it was against as a team, but he was playing against a Seer, and his team struggled to get on towards the range. The only reason they won those games was because Shio managed to find a beautiful insect and disrupt the backline dive. Problem when you're playing into a Corki is the fact he's got a package. and the package makes it unstoppable. And that's why the shields work. It's really cut out from here. You have to manage to find the Twitch. You have to manage to find the Corki, because if Shio doesn't bridge that gap into the late game, if we take this simulation-wise, the damage coming through from Misfits Premier should just be better and more reliable than the damage we see from the side of BDS. So I definitely feel like BDS, they have the pressure of being the one to execute that team composition.
Yeah, it almost feels as if BDS, in quite like Icarus-like fashion, have like not perhaps watched what happened yesterday. It feels like Misfits Premier pretty much got it, getting exactly what they want from the draft in comparison to yesterday. Obviously, not having that Trundle, which is kind of the centerpiece of that. I think specifically catering to Zanzara, but for me, BDS Academy doing a similar thing to what Carmine Corp did, where it's that early aggression. I think we're going to be seeing from the Lee Sin, kind of catering towards these lanes, kind of building up the Rakan as well. Dream Race, obviously known for his Rakan in the Prime League, one of his most played champions, catering towards the rest of the map, playing and exporting pressure. But I think the problem is, if you run into a similar problem where if Misfits Premier are able to create that wall, they can get towards this later game, and then suddenly, like you're saying, Goldboard, they're going to be out damaged and outsourced.
Yeah, and I think that's why once we get in game, right, I think Shio, he has to be a focus point. It's about finding this pressure to really apply. And I think once you hit that level 6, that's where some of these picks needs to start coming through. Then that obviously makes Misfits' task a little easier, because a lot of their early game plan will literally just be jungle tracking. It'll be tracking in terms of movement from Dream Eyes, if he's about coming around that mid lane, as you already mentioned. Prio pick or comfort pick rather for him on the Rakan. If they can bridge that bottom lane pressure into the mid lane pressure, put Rika as far behind as possible, that's kind of the game plan or Chayak rather, that's kind of the game plan you're looking for.
Yeah, completely agree with you, but we're going to have to find out more about that in a few seconds or so. But in any case, I'm going to be joining you with that match very soon with Gulborg. We'll see you very shortly. Don't go anywhere. Welcome to the first game of the day. We don't quite get the graphic. Yes, we do actually, as we descend onto the Rift for the first game of the second day of the Super Week, BDS Academy versus Misfits Premier. We see the wildlife and shrubbery that exists and perfoliates this Rift. Talk me through your expectations.
I thought shrubbery was some kind of like mushroom or vegetable. Like, have you seen Monty Python where they need to look for a shrubbery?
Shrubbery just refers to general garden area, so it may be a bit of a mischaracterization.
Well, we're only
a minute into the first game, and you're already correcting me, Cool.
I'm sorry, I was just, I'm curious here, not the native English speaker, but if we do want to apply some league terms, which I'm sure some people would love to hear about as well, I think the mid lane matchup is quite interesting as well. Rika decided in for first strike here into the Corki. Sometimes we see the likes of Comet instead to just get that lane prio coming through. Down towards the bottom lane, I love this movement. Rika moves down towards the bottom lane, gets a ward for himself. What this means is that wards actually give not only gold, but also XP that will be shared. If you're a solo laner that pick up a ward from the early game, you'll actually get level 2 on the first wave instead of the second wave where it usually happens. And that's important, especially for this matchup, because we're talking about how they need to attack Chayak, make sure that he does not get the leads that he needs on the Corki to be a late game threat, so at least you can get an XP advantage from Rika in the mid lane, hopefully to apply extra pressure.
Yeah, completely. I think important to note as well is he is slightly late to that lane, so I think some of the priority you traditionally see going to be slightly eschewed in Shayek's favor as well. But in terms of the trades we're seeing early, it should be the case that Moonlight and Vander can get a slight bit of pressure level 1 due to the range versus melee nature of this matchup. Too many other matchups. Talk to me about the top lane as well. Is that going to be pretty much a snooze fest until later in the game?
You looked at this entire map and you took Sejuani into one. Sometimes we see Sejuani actually go for an ignite because there actually can come out some noodle fights that Sejuani can get some kill pressure in. But I'm actually more interested in the bot lane instead here, because I feel like just with how Vander functions as the Renata, it's kind of what we talked a little bit about in Champ Select as well. Because you're that range champion, you get the push out, you get the priority to come in here. You can crash on 2 now, and this allows you to move into the enemy jungle. We were talking about jungle tracking. Misfits Premier, they needed to track Shio. He's an early game win condition. So now you have the bot lane prio, you're not losing any CS, you go up, you put a ward next to Blue Buff and Raptors, and Grump. And by process of elimination, you now know that Shio is on the top side of the map because he's not showing up any of these camps that you have just gotten intel on.
Yeah, completely. And I think it was such an important point that you raised in the beginning, how important it was for Misfits Premier to do that jungle tracking, do the due diligence to avoid one of the only win conditions we can really see for BDS Academy. Although I think that might be a slight overstretch because they obviously do have scaling options, but I think it's really important to note that Shio has picked this because he has to get something to work in the early game. And the more that Misfits Premier do to negate that, the more space and time they buy for themselves.
Oh, but Shio, he actually knows this because his bot lane for sure gave him the intel that, you know, oh, they moved up, they have water jute. I take that back. I thought he was going to knock the wishing cone back. I thought his bot lane would have given him the intel that, oh, there's most likely a ward on your blue buff. So he could have just put down the vision cone behind him, gotten that extra ward, cleared that vision, but nonetheless, intel has been given. They know where Sansara is with their vision cone instead, and Sansara will just be full clearing, not taking the top side scuttle in the beginning.
I think that speaks more to your just general faith in bot lane players, Goldborg, see, owing to your personal experience. But, you know, blind faith nonetheless. Bit of vision on the map means that Shio does get spotted out there, and it's going to persuade any sort of ganks on the bot side. Misfits Premier's bot lane being able to back after crashing this wave relatively safely. So, entirely crashed. A little bit of danger there.
But with Dreamer Race, of course, back in, they should be able to get it. What this allows Dreamer Race to get instead, I'm going to take...
Adam's gone for quite an extensive trade. This is quite, like you said, the wet noodle fight, whereby, is he going to kill it for a second? Oh no, never mind. Very interesting. Talk to me about the Sejuani, something we've started to see more and more of recently. It's kind of almost popped out of nowhere. It's a champion tradition you would have seen in jungle. We haven't seen in like multiple seasons at this point. What has brought this back into fruition?
Well, I'm just going to hold it for a second here. I want to see if Shio and G-Maurice is going to be able to make something happen here. It is a low Kakus despite up here playing tank. And Sansara is going to be waiting around. It's a 2 versus 4 situation, or 3 situation. You can see the minimap as well. Vander is actually moving up because of that bot lane power. They have finally been able to accumulate themselves. But with now nothing happening, I'll gladly dive into the Sejuani matchup instead. It's a very interesting matchup. I think in the late game, Ornn is still the one I would rather have on my team due to the fact that he's putting out Ornament item. That's better for the itemization, of course. I like the Ornn ultimate way better than I like Kakus ultimate. But what Kakus can do on the Sejuani is that you can brawl with the Ornn in the early game, in the laning phase, which is why we've seen some Sejuanis take Ignite in the matchup to try and actually get some kill pressure, which sounds weird. Another thing is that Thimble Winter is a super high value item on Sejuani. So if you're not familiar with what Thimble Winter does, if you CC your opponent in any way, you get a shield. Which actually means every single ability from Sejuani is able to proc the Thimble Winter Shield. Your Q gives CC, the W gives a slow that counts as well, your E is a stun, your ult is a stun, so it's just a super potent champion with some of the itemization coming through, and having that tier in the early games allows you to just throw out way many abilities than your position, which in turn gives you priority of a lane.
With both of the facts, I thank you so much for elucidating me as to how Sejuani works. That's actually very interesting in terms of the Thimble Winter stuff. With both junglers pathing so heavily for this bot side and obviously being a highly contested affair in the bot lane, where does this pressure start to go and how does it shift when we get to the level 6 mark?
I mean, once again, I for sure thought it was going to be Chayak that's going to be contested a little bit, but I think through itemization, Chayak has actually been really smart. Now, we can't see it now, but he actually started out with Minion Materializer. What this allows him to do in a lane where Rika haven't opted in for this himself is that despite Rika having the better prior in the laning phase, with Minion Materializer, you can just sap a cannon and be way better at fighting back on that bot.
Well, Dream Race is going to be trying to find an engage here onto Wulai. It's Ignite to exchange both ways. Zanzara's in though. Dream Race goes low. Flash forward from Zanzara is going to mean first blood for Misfits Premier in the back of theirs. Shio has taken the dragon, but it is a exchange nonetheless.
Oh, crucially, Kakus made his way down here as well, but he's going to be losing some farm on the top side as well. Not that it's a matchup that matters too much, but of course Adam now with a level advantage. And yeah, Dreamer Race, not too sure what that was about. It felt like the team thought they were going to turn on them, but Shio and Rika decided to stay on the Drake instead.
Zanzara's going to take that. Shio did not fancy the second portion of that Q. I think rightly so. Would have been very difficult for him to get much done with that much of a HP differential. Back to Zanzara, reaching that level 6 pinnacle slightly before Shio, and he's out-tempoing Shio, I think it's fair to say. And we spoke about before the game, Goldborg, how important it was for Shio to get something done, find that opening in the game.
Kayak now being attacked, good flash.
One comes out though. Dreamers is here as well. Giant's already flashed. He's going to get taken down. They do end up giving it over to Adam. That move early from Ross has precipitated the action here. Adam finds the window on that level 6 mark. He takes it right by the horns.
And exactly what we talked about as well. They know they need to attack this mid lane with Chayak. He's going to become too much of a threat in the late game. So you want to be up in gold. You want to be able to attack him. And a great pincer maneuver came free from BDSA here. Adam moving down after he had the priority on the top side of the map. And then, of course, Dreamer Ace finally making a movement into the mid lane. And I actually thought he was spotted by Sansara because Sansara was recalling in the pixel bush towards the bottom side of River. But apparently not being respected from Chayak here. And he pays for it immediately.
Yeah, completely. And speaking of paying for things, it is going to be a debt that has been accrued in that regard. But at least the Misfits are going to be able to take this Rift Herald. Might be able to slightly bring the gold lead a little bit more back in their favor. With that dragon going down as well. But I think one of the points I wanted to touch on with you, Google, just before we got interrupted by that little play there, we spoke about how important it was for Shield to find his ways into this game via ganking, via pressure. He's not really been able to do so, and what kind of ramifications is that going to have for this academy?
I mean, he's definitely got good leeway to look for it now, though, right? As you just remembered, Chayak, no flash. And you can see it, Dreamer Ace every time bot lane is pushed in, pressure bot lane, bridging that pressure into the mid lane, which is allowing Riga to move forward. Now, I want to see him do that with Shio as well. I want to see them attack the bot side, not the jungle side of Sansara instead. Get vision of Sansara, realize where he is on the map, and once you know you're in a position to commit to these plays, that's where you're attacking Chayak again, who does not have flash on the Corki. That's what we're looking for, that's what we want to see, but currently Shiro is just going to be full clearing his bot side. Once that had happened, I think he's either going to recall or he's going to try and roam up with Dreamer Ace.
I think it's fair to say as well that the nature very much of this traditional Renata lane, we see a lot of Callistas with it around the MSI period. Now with the hyper carries during the durability patch becoming more prominent in the Twitch Renata lane, much more of a hyper scaling option. When it gets to this kind of later game lateral stage in this game, how do they pair off against a Zeri, for example? I think a lot of people will call one of the strongest.
I mean, once again, it's about opening it up here, right? Seri, while she's great and super strong in a teamfight setting, she also needs to be able to kite out the opposition. And if she can't reach the opposition, well, she's not really going to be a champion. So if it's going to work out for her, it's her then magically stacking a lot of her passive on Sansara, on Kakas in a teamfight. But if Kakas and Sansara understand their game plan, they're not going to allow Crowny to do that. And that will make matters difficult for Crowny. It will be difficult for him to find these fights unless it's just a straight up pick through Dreamer Ace where someone is caught off guard. Then, of course, the damage will still be amplified and coming through from Sarah.
Take a look at Adam here. He's roamed into the mid lane, obviously wanting to capitalize on Chayak's lack of flash here. Just the pure pressure is going to mean that he has to avoid this wave pretty much, and be Shio picking up that top wave. And they're investing so much into the Chayak line.
Well, that's interesting, right? Because now Shio is picking up the top wave. This could have just been Shio coming in with a normal gank instead. All of a sudden, he's acting like a top laner. Game plan seems a little flustered still, and I mean, even if they did, it's still Kakas. He's got flash, almost ultimate up again at the Q. It's a very immobile champion and cannot be slowed either due to the passive. So, difficult to capitalize on Sejuani being caught off guard. Once again, they want to attack that mid lane instead. But BDSA also have another win condition going for them. It is, of course, their Dragon stacking. And now with 1 minute less on the Drake, it is something they can look for. But look at the pressure coming through from Misfits. Immediately Herald in the mid game. That pressure needs to be responded to. Chayak has the package too. It's going to be difficult for BDSA to retain control of the Dragon area.
Yeah, completely. Obviously, you just spoke about it. The package paying so many dividends here. Zanzara goes in, and they're going to be a little bit of pressure here. Zeri, you can see Crowny over the wall there on the bot side, just off the screen there, just trying to keep that wave away from his turret. But both teams kind of negotiating, not willing to entirely handshake ownership of the Dragon over to the other just yet.
The cold reset timer here coming through. I think Woolite needed to get that Blade of the Rune King. He was low on mana as well, and because the bot lane has now forfeited himself from the matchup and they've now been able to push Chayak in, they can actually go right back to this Drake. So while the setup was there for Misfits Premier, the teamwork and cohesion around it really wasn't. Sansara could have caused it for steal here.
Zara is here. So Dragon's going to be taken out by Beatus Academy.
Looks like they're going to be walking out. A bit of Rico fancies his way in here. Ornhorn comes out. Or Adams roamed his way down here. It might just about hit. It doesn't. Ulight's open up with the ultimate here. They're going to try and get Zanzara, but they can't quite do it. Zanzara's landed a W here. Ulight is still going. Too much just yet. Trade off. Actually, it's just the Dragon being taken by BDSA Academy. A lot of cooldowns burn both ways. That scores over to the side here. Oh, and he pins out. Rika's going to have to hold away, but is he going to get stunned up by Sejuani E? Not quite. A lot of ultimates traded both ways. Why it's still continuing at 30 minutes here in the bot lane.
Oh, this could be huge for Crown in the top side, though. He decided to go for an early recall. He's got a big wave he's pushing in on the top side. Plates still up for 1 minute, less than 1 minute, and there's 3 available on the top side. At best, he'll get 1, and if he's lucky, he'll get 2 and pick up some nice money to make moves towards the inventory.
Yeah, I think it's so crucial that you point out there with the kind of back and forth affair that we've just seen there. BDSA Academy being able to be the main ones, well, the only ones who really are able to get much of an advantage from that, getting the Dragon, getting both ultimates, multiple ultimates on both sides burned, and now Crowny, like you say, gets these 2 plates here. Really crucial gold injection for him.
Once again, especially because he's a champion that will have a difficult time making or leaving his mark rather in these team fights, but if he can get ahead of the curve and all of a sudden they can start making plays through him, that's really great for them. But once again, BDSA, we wanted more map pressure from Shio, right? We wanted them to get more aggressive in this early game, and now 14 minutes into the game, he's not been able to find a pick, he's not been able to find a fight, and quite honestly, he seems like a very individual pinpoint in this match. He haven't reached. It's like he's not really found a friend here at his team where he's been able to just sync up with them and start committing plays on the map. I would love to see him and Dream Race with the pick potential they have in that kid and mobility as well to try and find some picks. But the later this game goes, the harder that will become. And it's why Lee Sin is a champion that's so oddly looked at many times, because in the hands of some of the best players, he's going to look amazing. But if you're not able to make that play potential work, he's going to be very useless in the late game.
Absolutely. I mean, you speak about how you'd like Shio and Dream Race. I'd even like Gio and Adam. I feel like Adam's doing so much work this game with some of these Ornhorns to set up some of these plays. Also, beyond that, also getting a massive CS lead over his opponent. Ulight's going to be getting engaged on here. Steps up slightly too close to the wave here. Hostile takeover gets done into response, but Dream Race is here with the engage here. They get Rika, gets the kill. Side in is Chayak. Shio goes in. Ornhorn comes out. And they find him on. They do manage to pin up Chayak and Panda here, but nothing more going to be obtained on his just 1 kill onto Ulight.
And quite frankly, just Woolite making an overextension there. That was nothing on BDSA. Yes, they were there to capitalize, but that was Woolite making the mistake, walking too far forward and getting caught. Just basically gifting BDSA ways back into this game, now sitting at a 2k gold lead.
Well, it's like they say, Goldborg, it's that old fisherman's adage. You give a Twitch a ball, he'll get kills for a day. If you teach him how to space glide, he'll get kills for a year, you know?
Yeah. Someone should teach.
That one?
Yeah, I know. Well, I know where you're taking it from. I definitely did not hear the version you were using. But maybe since you are, of course, casting from the International Space Station, you could teach him a bit about spacing.
Yeah, not the best spacing there. Just, you know, going for a little bit of a melee range farm there. It does happen. Sometimes you want to be using your auto attacks a bit more, with a bit more space there.
Unfortunately, Woolite known for that in the past, of course. I mean, I remember back in the day, he had the rumor of, unfortunately, playing these range champions like the Retro Nimir. I will say he has become way better ever since then, and the spacing usually is there. I think that was just a lack of judgment more than anything. But now, once again, 1 minute till the next Drake. BDSA could put themselves on soul point here, and they do have that 2k gold lead we were talking about. They're looking quite good into this one. And Leandris has been finished up with Rika. Chayak only sitting on a Muramana, so that extra AP that really makes Corki a threat hasn't really come through either. So I'd actually say that BDSA, they're on good track here to set themselves up for the next Drake.
Absolutely. I think you speak about, it's not just a thing with Woolite. I think just that general lapse of judgment is a real theme that we see with this Misfits Premier lineup. It's very much the case that they're able to get to these later game stages with not too much of a deficit, but it's just that brief lapse in concentration that really ends up testing them. And it's such, you know, characteristic plays like that. Woolite getting caught out, Vanda getting caught out in a lot of these games. They've really got to turn the concentration up and make sure that BDSA Academy don't run away with this.
Yeah, now look at the map movement actually coming through. Adam's still in the top side. He does have that teleport. Kaka's teleport not up yet, so he's forced to just walk down there. But that does actually give Misfits from Year the alleviation of having the attack first. So let's see how they utilize it. No, Adam has teleported through now.
Oh, and Zanzara's gone in for a steal almost immediately. Adam's off to the side, keeping Mulai out on the pick here. Gio and Brownie going quite low. It's a big package. There's a big Sejuani onto Adam. To Rika, sorry. A lot of damage coming out. They do get the dragon there. It's a huge steal from Zanzara. And a bigger team fight means that Shio goes down. Spoke about how they needed to turn that concentration up. It certainly seems like they have.
It's just so pivotal finding a fight down here. You stop the Drake stacking from coming through. That means BDSA, that win condition now seems miles away with 10 minutes being up on it. You get to open up the mid lane turret. That allows you to take control of the side lanes instead as well to take care of the tier 2, 3 turrets. And you finally get your Corki rolling a little bit here. You get to buy him extra space, you get to buy him extra time, and you stop the snowballing coming through. Quite frankly, just such a split decision coming through here. Not being able to catch Sansara off guard, allowing him to get into the pit while you're the one first on the objective. And then Adam, his TP flank, just not really in a position where he's able to stay together with the team. He's not really a frontline. He's just a focus point for the rest of Misfits Premier, where he's forced to flash out afterwards. Setup there for BDSA was great. Execution was lacking, unfortunately.
100% agree with you there, Corborg, and we spoke about how important it was for them to just build upon that, get that next dragon. Now Misfits Premier in a position where, like we said before, they can get to a point where they're almost even. It feels like they're almost at an advantage because they're so used to finding these deficits in the early game that when they get to this point, it's all about looking at Wu, like getting to this later game stages. He is so proficient in these team fights, unless he's getting caught out. He's done a great job so far on that one mistake in terms of finding these openings.
And should this go how Misfits from year won it, we might actually be watching a little slower game state of a game where no one's really willing to commit plays, except Woolite, of course, and Crownie.
You're going aggressively here. Shield bow is popped, couldn't quite find the excess damage there, but let's get the shield bow down. And we spoke about how important this was, finding these openings in the mid lane. Known for walking up with this mid lane turret falling down now. Catching the waves high is going to mean very much a lot of danger for this Academy lineup, and pressure is starting to mount for them more so.
Honestly, big fan of the map pressure coming through from Misfits Premier. After they got the mid lane to it, Woolite force out Crownie instead. Now they can just walk into the enemy jungle, and Crownie, he's back!
He dashes away slightly there, gets the benefit of going the turret there. That's very dangerous. Shield's off to the side here, might try and find a Q, can't quite do it. Go back to stick.
And that's the thing, because Misfits from Year, realistically speaking, they don't need to do much, right? They're the team that really wants to scale with the Corki, and while the scaling will be matched on BDSA as well with Rika, once again, if this game goes where we're kind of just talking simulation-wise, the Corki will outrange the Asir. He will be doing more damage on that front as well, because he's not taking anything bad, and I think he's going for the Leandri's Anguish route as well, which is just super great against champions like Ornn and Lee Sin as well, where you're able to just stack up the burn, get more damage, keep the package, keep the rockets coming through rather. So they really just want to be able to pick up this farm, just wait for the next couple of Drakes, get the core items coming through. As we already talked about, Mythic still not come through from Chayak. And once these items have been finished from the Twitch and from the Corki, that's where we might see some aggression. But until then, all they really need to do is just clear waves, take care of the sides of the map that they can. You can already see it right now. Mid lane prior obtained again, move into the bot side jungle. Now you're bridging a push from Misfits Premier with Chayak as well coming in with the wave, and you should just be able to pick up the turret.
Yeah, I feel like BDS Academy almost being too placid in their own misfortune at this point. We spoke about how important it was that they were starting to punish. We saw the one time that Flash was punished did result in that kill in the mid lane, assisted there by Adam. It almost feels like they didn't do enough to further exacerbate that condition for themselves. They've almost waited until that dragon, and now they're in a position where it's gone badly. What are their openings now? Because you're kind of beyond that point where you can punish that opening.
It's always the playmaking you have to come through with, and I think like if you can get vision control around an objective where either Dream or Ace, Shio is in the backline where they're able to put a carry into their team, well then you still have the playmaking potential to play for. The reason why that's difficult is because now that Misfits is getting so much pressure as they are, they should be able to retain vision on their own jungle. Yes, right now BDSA have to put on some good vision, but now while the push comes through once again, Misfits from here should be able to contest and take it back.
Shove. This is going to have to put some answers here. Engage goes on the Dream Race. It's a faulty W that gets knocked him up there. It's in a slip off the side from Catskov. Good spell danger for BDS Academy here. And they find the ultimate here. Catskov throws it. It lands onto Rika there. He gets taken out as well. It's 2 quick kills in quick succession here. It's going to result in the Dragon as well.
It's, it's some of the same, misplays we saw from BDS in the LEC in spring as well, where it's just not a unit coming through together here. Yes, Adam is on the top side pushing in a turret. He's gonna get this turret for himself. With, if that was an isolated play, great. But Drake is being set up. You're looking for a pick potential. You need to slow down this Corki. You need to slow down this Twitch. And it's not happening. And because of that, Rika, Shio, Dream Race, they're still looking for the play themselves. Not really doing it together, and they're not managing to fight the proper setup for it.
Not doing a good job, but like we said previously, of furthering that lead. Interesting enough, I don't know that Rift goal went down. Rikana's just had to finish off.
Well, that's of course unfortunate. We see it here again, and the thing is, right? You look at the minimap. There was actually no vision. Dreamer could just have been sitting at the ramp entrance in the bush there, waiting for them to overextend. That didn't come through. It could have been Shio as well if they swept it. They should have played around way more with the vision. It's like they went into the enemy jungle, they got control, and then they just didn't use it, which is of course really sad to see, because the setup is there once again for BDSA, but they're lacking in the execution.
I almost feel at this point now that Shio hasn't really used that open window, we spoke about how difficult it is for him to then find that engage later. Flash forward from the Zanzaro is not going to result in too much. It almost feels like Rika has to be the one to step up now for BDS Academy, just trying to find that engage where Dream Race has failed before.
It's just like,
it's going to be difficult for him.
Yeah, but like, I get it, right? But even if you do that, then Sinsao ultimate, you got Kakas as well with disengaging, you got Vander with an ultimate as well. You can never throw yourself at them. You kind of have to kite back. But then you got the likes of Corki once again, and he loves that. And once again, that's why this champion is getting first pick. I swear to God, I've seen a Corki get first pick too many times, and the respawn is either a Victor or it's an Azir coming through. And you're just countering yourself if you do that. You're putting yourself on a timer, you're making the game more difficult to play. And it's just a little sad to see,
Ooh, Crownie might get caught out here. That's the E over the wall. Catspos is going to be coming in with the engage. Ultimate goes wide. Ornhorn in response is not going to do much to dissuade them. Now the fight has stopped. Just afraid of taking on the ult.
And they're just going to go back and, farm their waves once again. I mean, Chayek wasn't even there. He was on the top side. Now, Leandri's Anguish has been finished. Lighted Jewel has come through, and while that did get nerfed a little bit with the magic penetration, there still isn't really much MR coming through from the side of BDSA. Yes, Ornn is the only one really itemizing it. There is Merc Treads, but those are not the targets you're looking to burst down. These rockets, you want Crownie to hurt, you want Rika to hurt, you want Shield to hurt. And yeah, it's just going to be great for the Corki. The later this game goes, the better, Jake. I don't know what to tell you. This champion, this meta, he's really busted, especially on an ERL level, where teams don't always know how to punish him.
Well, what would your suggestion be? Because you talk about how BDS Academy picked the Azir here, they're essentially counting themselves. What are kind of the responses into this Corki?
I mean, they did it well the first time, right? We saw Adam come down, we saw Dream Eyes come down, you attacked them in the laning phase. Yeah. And that's why I hate talking about this matchup too as well, because there will always be the ability to outplay the opponent with the mechanics that you have in the BDSA roster. Once again, Azir, Isil, Rakan, there's playmaking potential. But you can't just walk headfirst at them. You need to create vision pockets. You need to get the pink wards down. You need to come through those pink woods and rely on overextension from Misfits Premier. And while we have seen that come through from them before, it's still not what we're counting on. You never want to rely on your opponents to make a mistake. You want to rely on yourself being able to deliver the attack. And that's just harder once you get into the late game, because now you start being grouped. It's going to be difficult finding the members isolated, which is why they needed to come through with the attack while they had that 2k gold boost. Because remember, they did have that gold boost, but they need to make it even steeper than they already had.
Absolutely, I think it's the thing that we keep bringing up this game, Goldborg, about how they needed to do more. It's almost like they kind of rested on their laurels, and now they're facing down, hurtling towards the late game, hurtling towards that scaling kind of epicenter. Wu-Light and Chayek on these hyper carries that are going to be so dangerous. In terms of the response, you have found you can do this kind of consistent DPS, but there's nothing in contrast to the burst. I feel like Misfits can do the space that can be granted for their carries as well. BDS Academy having a lot to answer for in this later stages.
I was just about to highlight Shio. Look at Shio now at least. If they're not getting caught in this mid lane, it could be good.
Oh, that's Scott's Brownie has to flash away here. Flash burn before a major objective. Does burn the ultimate, but it is going to mean the BDS Academy Brownie with no summoners here, in so much danger if he gets engaged upon.
Okay. But once again, look at Shio, right? They've been lazy with their vision, Misfits from here. It's the same ward they didn't have warded last time. If this Drake starts up and he finds the kick, this may be what we're looking for. Misfits from here, they're slacking on the vision control.
This could be big. Misfits Premier.
Oh, he's spotted!
He's gone in here. He's found the Corki. It's massive from Shio. We've spent all game hyping up how important it was for him to do so. But now Misfits Premier on the return. Brownie's over the wall. No summoners. Kaskos and Co have taken him out. And although the kick has come through, it's a kick in the teeth for BDS Academy as they get routed. 4 men. Misfits Premier take out 4. They're going to take the Baron as well. One of them moving towards the Dragon, I'd imagine, as well. And not the fight that BDS Academy were looking for at all,
But let's be real, that was the best fight they could ever ask for. And it wasn't enough. That just speaks to, once again, the difference in composition here, because then the Twitch is going to be a next issue. You're just not able to reliably take care of all the carries. Twitch outrages your entire composition. Yes, you took care of the Corki, but he still managed to get a little bit of the package off, which meant that in the team fight, people were still taking damage from the package, which was incredibly broken, incredibly difficult to pilot. And Misfits from here, they don't even take the Drake, but they get the Baron, they get the fight, and now they can just head on towards it, and they can start looking for the finishing touches to this game. Just once again, the Corki first pick, paying its dividends, and then of course the Twitch from Woolite, mastering the spacing afterwards.
Absolute arsenal in this game. Steal earlier, precipitating the downfall that they've experienced. Sanzara's over the wall now. Dream Race, a faulty engage once again. It's been the story all game now. It's a big engage onto Vander and Woolite here as they go down. It's big from Rika here. Rika's gone down quite low. He's gone out now. Zanzara and Kaskos are trying to find Shio, but he smites the camp now. Big off the side here from Brownie. Fight continues. It's a double kill for Chayek. He can't do much to find Kaskos. 2 for 3 thus far. BDS Academy are trying to keep away from the Dragon now, waiting out those respawn timers.
Oh no, he's a teleport.
It's going to be impossible.
And it's not going to be utilized. It's fine. But once again, you took care of the Twitch this time. Rika coming up, absolutely huge, being able to pick up 2 members at the same time. Who do you have in the backline still that's doing massive amount of damage and Crowley can't touch him? That's right, the Corki coming through. I know this may sound a little bit biased in terms of like, okay, this is the talking point we keep bringing up. But fact of reality is here that it's what matters and it's what's making the difference at the moment. We've seen it so many times. We saw it yesterday from Chayek against K-Corp. We're seeing it today against BDSA. This looks like the pick that's putting Misfits back on the map.
Absolutely. When we spoke about how this was a team that kind of lacked identity in their opening games, constantly building towards these late game team fights and then just faltering at the final hurdle. They struck yesterday a massive blow in terms of an upset, and today they're doing a similar thing. No one would have expected them to be able to do that before, but now they're going to have to stare down this engage here. Adam in with the Ornor, but it's hit nobody. BDS Academy clutching at straws for their engages here, and they're not finding anything, just split ends.
And that's the thing, bot lane Prio comes through, the pressure, BDSA, they have to respond to it. Recall with Baron in power comes through from Shag, Home Guards is there, he can path up towards the top side, and now the Misfits from here know the entirety of BDSA is on the bottom side, they can push in mid, and they can start setting up a siege on the top side instead, because they can get free vision in the red side jungle. It's not going to be responded, and you can see, there we go, they move in now, Shag's going to be on the top side, he's going to push him away, and they just need to take a chill until they hit that turret and start applying pressure with the Corki missiles.
So prominent. BDS Academy able to get that early Dragon lead now with 3 Infernal Dragons stacked on. That is so much extra firepower in a team that already is not lacking in the damage department with the engagement we've seen here. Kaskos needs to find the ultimate. Zanzara's running quite deep here. The hostile takeover is only going to land into 1. Dream Race does not get taken out from his initial engage here. The fight still flares on. A second or so, Adam fancies his chances here. Ornhorn onto Warlight. They're going to need to go over the wall to protect him here. Kaskos is over, but the 40 damage over the wall is doing a lot. Woolite's not gone down just yet. He does get away in the stealth here. They found Kaskos, and they can go any further here. Not quite. Find the 1. No neutral objective on the map. In that Misfits Premier are able to be not as heavily consequentially disadvantaged by their decision.
And BDSA, they buy themselves some extra breathing room here, right? You finally have 1 member down in Kakas, and they, of course, don't want to take a 4 versus 5 from the Misfits from your side. It allows them to just clear up their own camps. It's not going to get them anything. Unfortunately for them, there's no Drake up to be taken. there is no Baron, and there's really no camps up for them to get aggressive with either. So it just allows them to play standard League of Legends. And that's what BDSA are winning from these fights, the fact that they get to not be behind in terms of the state of the map for just a few moments. But once again, overextension from Misfits from I feel like that was just a full-blown fight in the mid lane for really no reason whatsoever. It wasn't properly set up. It just felt like, alright, let's try and fight and let's see what's happened. Woolite gets caught off guard. And of course, Kakos will have to sacrifice his own life to save his AD carry, or else matters could have been much worse from the side of Misfits from Yeah,
completely. And I think this is a good and a bad thing in a sense. It's a double-edged sword, because Misfits Premier, a team that we see, they make these crucial errors and these lapse of judgments, and it happens a lot. I feel like they've seen a moment of death within their ambitions here, and almost taper them back for a second and think, wait, let's calm down for a second. Ascos doesn't fancy calming down. He's found Clowny here. Clowny has the flash here. The hostile takeover means he gets taken out almost immediately. Doesn't respect the engage there whatsoever. Dream Race off to the side. He's found Woolite, but he's going to get taken down by damage. It's not great from BDS Academy whatsoever. 2 members fall. Misfits Premier are charging forward.
right. Very low in that instance though, but once again they continue with the siege. Health bars way too low on Rika and Dreamer as they have to forfeit this turret. Let's see how much Misfits can get out of this. Do they want to continue on to the mid lane? Do they want to reset and take care of sides? Looks like they want to continue on the mid lane part here.
They're going to grapple on this base, going to be opening up the gates of BDS Academy's base. Not quite sticking around to take that inhibitor just yet, but they don't necessarily fancy their chances in an engaged, in a extended fight here. Zara might have cancelled it, but not just about. 5 seconds on that, and now we're gearing up for that final dragon potentially. Misfits Premier 1 away from getting that Infernal Soul. BDS Academy have to stop this or their chances are dwindling.
Oh, 100%. And like you're playing against a competition that has Twitch, right? The poke coming through from Corki. This is just gonna hurt if you give that one over. You have to make it work, or else that's pretty much game there. It's something you have to fight for. Let's see if BDSA can find a way to set up these vision pockets once again. But before this Drake comes up, Aaron will also be spawning. So we'll have this kind of, not stalemate per se, but we'll have 2 objectives open at the same time. So kind of dual wielding these neutral objectives. Let's see, not on vision here. Is anyone going to face check it? Oh, been spotted on the sweeper.
Spotted out, but you have to remember Misfits Premier might just have the option to turn towards the mid, but they're not going to do that just yet. Adam has to use a disengage Ornhorn here. Hostile takeover comes out. Shyx off to the side here. He gets kicked in here. He gets Shurima shuffled. He goes into stasis here. They have found Brownie though on the back of it. Shyx gone low here. She over the wall. Package has to be used here. 1-for-1 so far. Engage from Kakos. What kind of damage can he find on Rika? Woolite's here as well, but he's going to get taken down almost immediately. He thought he had the angle, but not quite. And Ascos aren't exactly your damage threats here. They're going to get kited out, and Misfits Premier have not found a beneficial fight for themselves. They've let go of the threat of the pedal for a second, and they've been punished for it. We spoke about how characteristic it is of them to take their concentration off for a second. Shyx now, he's got so much put out for him.
Oh, cooldown's coming through as well, but the Sejuani ultimate not up just yet. Rika!
Yeah, Mike out here, but not quite. Katscosa goes down, and now Shyx off to the side, kind of last man left against 4. It'll be extremely difficult for him to do anything. Maybe he tries it. His chances. Adam is off to the side. For getting in here, and spoke about this group, how important it is for them just to not have that lapse in judgment, that lapse in concentration. And they do it for a second and it results in absolute disaster.
And it's the same bush again. It's the same exact bush where Shio is just camping, waiting for them to step forward. Misfits Premier, they're lacking in their vision control. They're lacking in the setup for these objectives. And finally, BDSA, they're finding the execution. Jungler is alive from both teams here. Smite still up, not for Sansara just yet. So let's see how fast they can burst this one.
Got to burst it quickly. It's gone down to about 2k now. It's going to get taken out before the question's going to be even be asked here. Woolite's got a lot of space here to work with. Rika can't find the ultimate. Ornhorn goes down, and Woolite survived. He survived so far. The ultimate is taken out. Shio here, and Zanzara off to the side now. Needs to find a stun onto someone to continue this going. Teleport's coming off the side from Barney. They need to find Clowny. He's no summoners here. Him dying here could mean the game. He dodges out here from the W, but he's going to be getting slowed up. And off to the side here, Zanzara is. They're going to be routing them. They're going to be stopping them from getting away here. Mid lane inhibitor open. It's a disaster. They've got a wave to play here. They've got 30 seconds. At the very least, it means the BDS Academy's base is going to get opened up.
Oh my god, those Corky rockets, we talked about it, the poke coming through, he's stunned up, and it's just like shooting fish in a barrel for Chayek there, pushing in the top side now with the long death timer, still 15 seconds on Shio and Rika. I think Misfits Premier are going to look for a victory here.
Back away from it, don't want to go for it too far. Want to, you know, have the same thing they had before where they just take a step too forward and then they're staring down a bad decision they might have made in retrospect, but they do take the top inhibitor. I think this is going to give them a lot more space, especially with the fact that that Baron is off the map now. When that next dragon spawns up, gives you a little bit of time to dedicate more resources. Now BDS Academy having to respond to that wave. Hopefully they can now secure that soul, that ever so important soul.
But even then, like, I still think BDSA can have some sort of momentum with them. They're finally starting to find these plays. Yes, they pick up the Baron and they get completely wiped after. But that wasn't them setting up for Shio going for an insect. That was Shio playing kind of disengaged duty, and because of that, they just got completely pincered themselves. Now he's in a position where they have Baroned up minions, they can push in, and he can look for some of these plays again.
Some damage onto that turret, Shio. Running interference off to the side. Light is in his visibility there, and setting up this Azir turret here is such a different flavor of game that we've gotten so far. It's been so often that Misfits Premier are pushing into the enemy jungle now, but now BDS Academy able to set up in the mid lane of the heart of Misfits Premier. A distant line here. They're in the foreign equator, and so far what this game has equated to is just Misfits Premier, both teams not really pushing their advantages when they get that, and it could come back to bite Misfits Premier especially now.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's one of those things where the what if starts to come through. But I feel like BDS had the same kind of thoughts early into the game. I think it feels way more... Well, it's still favored to Misfits Premier if they play it out and they start, you know, picking up on their tracking of where Shio is on the map. It's a question they have to constantly ask themselves if they don't see him. Oh, we don't have vision of Shio. Where can he be? Alright, let's find out the places where we realistically speaking would hide ourselves if this was us in this game plan, and then just start putting the vision there. And I think it becomes more difficult when the sieging starts to come through, when Shio have to stay in his own base, because he doesn't have the luxury of coming in from behind in a bush. He has to find, you know, a sonic wave into a ward hop, into a kick, and that becomes even more difficult than it was before.
Important to bring attention to though is as well, he does have that flash as well. I think gives him a little bit of time, a little bit less time in terms of that animation. Be able to get that kick, maybe that becomes a difference maker. I think he's a really important person to highlight, like you have been doing, Gulborg, for this next fight, because so much pins on whether he can find that position, find that flank. He can do that. Dream Race, someone we've seen this game having a bit of a rough time in terms of finding these engages, but if they can all pair up and sync together in this team fight, then maybe they can find the opening that prevents Misfits Premier from taking away this crucial win here.
I mean, crucially, even Jayek has itemized a Guardian Angel, which I never actually think I've seen on a Corki before. That just gives you 2 extra options. It allows you to just completely package Brainless into the enemy team, but it also creates an extra point of defense if Shio were to find a kick again.
We spoke about that earlier, how that top inhibitor falling would give them pressure around this Drake timer. With two stacked inhibitor waves in that top lane, someone's going to have to answer it eventually. I think it's important to note that Misfits Premier have a little bit of time to play with here. They're first on the objective. Looks like Rika's going to be heading up towards to clear that. And this could just be the soul going the way of Misfits Premier without much of a contest.
That's the thing, right? Rika does have teleport, but where do you TP to? You can TP into the mid lane and just look for the posturing coming through from BDSA. They're just straight up going to give this objective up. They're pushing into mid lane. Recalls can come through from Misfits Premier, and they can just give up that tier 2 turret. It's not going to matter too much. And they're not even going for these recall. They know
they still have the package.
Yeah.
They fancy their chances here. So much stopping power available for them now with that GA on the Corki. His initial catch out. Limited targets in terms of who you want to go on to. Shio only has 1 man he can really get onto. It's Woolite. Woolite with that kind of... There's no guessing game about who Shio is going to be going for. Woolite's all that's going through his brain right now is where is Shio and how can he get onto me?
Guys, you don't actually have to get the minion wave. It is still an open inhibitor, but obviously this allows to threaten Nexus push afterwards if that's what you're looking for. Rika though, good presence of mind for him, realizing that he still has the time to go for a topside push without being punished elsewhere on the map, since the lanes are so, well, long right now in terms of where the next objective is. They get a turret for themselves, get some extra items, and look at Rika's itemization as well. He's on that full build. He's got the upgraded Leander's Torment as well. And he's going to be hurting like a truck, but it's about him finding the position where he can deal out the damage without taking too much in return as well.
This Zeri is at a point now, although Crownie's had a bit of a disappointing performance thus far, 0-4, you can see even in the shutdown in the CS department as well. He's at that 4-item spike as well now. We spoke about how important it was for him, how important it was for Misfits Premier's front line to not give him that speed up in these team fights. So difficult not to, and engage has been found. Zanzara has to use the ultimate prematurely here. I mean, the Misfits Premier don't have much space to work with. Hostile Taker comes out, and it is going to mean that an opening has been found by...
That's huge!
Flash forward, he finds a double kill here. Rika has to do so much, but he's not found it quite. And this could just be it. This could be the pinnacle of what we've found so far. Misfits Premier at the drop of a hat. It looked a little bit back and forth. Shio trying to find here, but Jayek is wiser to his cunning plans here. With 3 members down, 40 seconds. Surely Misfits Premier just go for the end here, Goldball.
Yeah, surely this is where they just run it up the mid lane here. They have the minion wave to work with. There's a cannon in it as well. They have 5 members alive still. And what a beautiful layering of CC in that fight as well. Looked a little tricky with Kako's taking too much damage from the Sun Disc, but then initially after, Woolite just opens up on them with the damage. Rika not able to find it, and they're going to be looking for an end now.
Absolutely. Nexus turret's going very low. Shio's gone in to try and find something. Trying to find a little bit more time, but the time is just not there. Time was of the essence in the early game for him, but just not enough was done. And Misfits Premier charged to a 2-0 start for their Super Week. This is a different brand of Misfits Premier. No longer are the concerns for them in that regard, and they're able to take their second